Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Looks like we still have a few people joining us, but it's 7 o'clock, so I think we'll get going. Let's see, we need to start with the roll call, please.
Trustee Wells.
Here.
Trustee Lawson.
Here.
Trustee Marquez.
Here.
Vice President Diaz-Silva.
Here.
President McAvoy.
Here. All right, and we had no closed session, so I'll just go ahead and start with our welcome. Bienvenidos. Si necesita interpretación en español, por favor busque la información en el chat. Gracias. Welcome everyone to our October 20th Redwood City Board meeting. Thank you for being here. I posted the links in the chat for the agenda, as well as how to sign up for comments, how to make comments to the board, and I'll repost that again as more people join the meeting. If you would like to speak to the board, please fill out the Google Doc. Be sure to include your name so we know who to unmute when the time comes. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak tonight. And if you need translation, you'll be given more time. If the item you wish to address is not on the agenda, you will be called on during oral communication. If the item is on the agenda, you will be called on when that item is being addressed. As a reminder, this is a board meeting meant for board business. The chat feature is open for members of the public to ask the board members or staff clarifying questions or make a short comment to the panelists. But I would ask that you please do not use the chat box for ongoing conversation or commentary. And then as a reminder, because we're meeting virtually, all votes will be by roll call, and we are recording the meeting. All right. So thanks. So do I have any changes to the agenda?
If there's no discussion or comment cards on it, I'd say I propose we move the second meetings. So that's 11, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to consent.
All right, that works for me. Is that okay with the rest of the board? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, that's Mike and then Janet with the second. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Lawson.
Aye.
Trustee Marquez.
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Silva.
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, I'm just checking. We're on to oral communication. I don't think we have any oral communication tonight. There wasn't any a few minutes ago. Let me just double check. Spanish, nope, okay. All right, so no oral communication. So we are on to the review of technology department's vision and plans for 21-22.
Yes, and that is Kyle Brumbaugh, and he is going to give that update tonight. So Kyle, this is your time.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Board members, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak with all of you tonight and to kind of share the things that we've been doing in the Technology and Innovation Services Department over the past few years in the Redwood City School District. So the scope of this report is designed to give more of a full-fledged view of all of the different services that the Technology and Innovation Services Department provides for staff, students, and teachers, but to also give you kind of a background of some of the things that we've done over the last 3 years to really improve those services for everybody inside of the district. So it's been a period of great change for our district, that we really kind of turned the corner from being a district that used technology in very limited ways before 2018 to a district that uses technology to a great degree, where a lot of our curriculum is delivered via some kind of digital format, and that we have grown with that, and we've been able to provide the services to all of our teachers and students to do that, and along with providing additional services for our staff members so that they can be more effective in their jobs. You can see this picture right here. This is actually Ryan Sue, one of our technicians, and this is the process of Ryan deploying one of our brand new MacBook Airs to our teachers in February of this year. That was one of the large updates that we had in our department over the last year. but there's been several others as well. So I'd first like to introduce our team. Our team kind of consists of two separate divisions. So we have a data services team that's led by Cheryl Biggs, who's our database manager. She handles all of our CalPAS reporting and manages our student information system. We have Isabel Villalobos, who's our student data specialist, and Merced Ruiz, who is our receptionist and does our intake of registrations and works in our off-net press site. We have an infrastructure services team that's led by Carlos Reyna, our systems manager, who's been with the district for approximately 15 years, does a great job with that. Roger Lim, who's our tier 2 technology support specialist, who does all of the support for all of our servers, all of our network switches, and all of the other infrastructure that holds our applications together or provides services like single sign-on, et cetera. And then Fermin Cambreros, who is our technology administrative assistant, who handles all of the issuing of email addresses and keeping track of all of our inventory and does all of that work in our department. And then we have 5.5 site technology folks, and they basically have 2 sites each. And then our halftime person does have TAFT and facilities. So Ryan Sue, Ronnie Garcia, James Frazier, Jesse Marcus, Eric Mendoza, and Ken Lee are our 6 technology folks at the school sites. So our accomplishments is that we've really turned over everything in the tech services department. One of the things that I can say is that all of the infrastructure pieces within our district have changed over the last 3 years, and I'll give you some more detail as we get along. So it kind of goes into access points and our data center, et cetera, and I can get a little bit more specific. But one of the larger changes we made is that we've completely turned over all of our classroom technology as well. So besides the computers that the teachers have and the new Chromebooks that the students have, we've really done a good job of creating an atmosphere in each and every classroom where it's the same in each classroom. You can go into any classroom in the district and you'll find the same equipment. We'll talk about that functionality in just a minute. The student devices, we've increased that number. And then one of the other things that we did is we renegotiated our copier contract, which I'll provide a little bit more information as well as we go along. The one thing I would kind of be remiss in saying, if I didn't say it now, is that all the projects that we've been able to undertake have not been from a single source of funding, that we've been very blessed and very fortunate to have multiple sources of funding. Measure T has been a great source of support to us. We've been able to do lots of things with Measure T funding. We've also been able to use federal E-rate funds and leverage those funds to make a lot of the improvements that we've made within the district, and then working with the school sites and the money that they have for Measure U to make sure that we make purchases that are going to benefit all students in the district. And through all of that, we want to make sure that we do this all with an equity lens and that we ensure that all students have access to all the equipment they need in order to make sure that they can engage in the curriculum and the lessons that their teachers are providing for them. So our equity goals, we've actually made a lot of progress in these. And so besides just providing a Chromebook for students, one of the major things that we've done is we've made sure that, especially when we were in shelter in place and during the COVID remote learning time, we made sure that every student had the ability to connect to us. During that time, we issued 1,500 hotspots to our students. We also worked with the County of San Mateo to get more of their county-based wireless access points up on telephone poles in the city of Redwood City. During that time, they put in approximately 150 of those access points on telephone poles. Most of them are located in the area behind Taft School and along Chestnut Street, and then more near the district office off of Broadway and Veterans Boulevards. But there's a lot of those access points that now provide access for our students where they didn't have access before. I'm also working with the principals through Measure U to make sure that we have more of a standard of what we order as a district so that everyone has the same thing and that we can support that much more easily. So I mentioned kind of the things that we've improved over the last 3 years. So the first thing we did with the help of Measure T is that we have changed out all of the cabling at all of the sites. So we now have single mode fiber optic cabling that will last us probably 7 to 10 years at least. We also have category 6 and category 6A copper cabling in the walls that will probably last us at least seven to 10 years as well. The benefit of having that single mode fiber optic cable is that now we can, with just the change of the optics or small pieces in our switches, we can increase our bandwidth within the sites from 10 gigabits all the way up to 40 gigabits without really changing much in our network at all. So we had a program where we changed out all of the core switches, and the switches within our network are really the traffic monitors. Think of them, if you're running on a freeway, the switches are more the stop signs and the caution signs and one-way signs. That's what our switches do, and they allow us to move traffic around. So we put in core switches in 2018. We did 16 of those at all the school sites. We then put in access layer switches, which are the switches in the wiring closets at each one of the schools, and we did 130 of those. And then we also in 2019, we put in 530 access points. So we changed the standard in the district. Previous to this, the standard in the district had been 1 access point for every 2 classrooms. With this change, we moved to a standard of 1 access point per classroom. So there is an access point in each and every classroom in our district. We also in 2020 moved over to a brand new data center. One of the things that we had is we basically had 10 physical servers, that a few of which were 10 plus years old. We had a few other servers that were running various flavors of virtualized data center software, and that we now move this all into basically a single box. So 25 servers into a single box. And we have virtualized all the servers. We also have added redundancy. So there's one of these at the district office, and there's another one of these at one of our school sites, so that we have redundancy. We also added a separate piece, which is called an HP Store Once, that allows us to move snapshots or copies of our servers to that device to protect them from ransomware. So we've done what we needed to do to mitigate the ransomware response in our district. We've also added these uninterruptible power supplies so that we have 30 minutes of network uptime if there's a power outage at one of the school sites. I mentioned our repo-graphics changeover. So we had been with the company for several years. There were some things that we liked with the company, but we decided in 2019 to put that out to public bid. And one of the things that a few things we were able to do is, first of all, we were able to reduce our current costs. I believe that we're close to, and Priscilla will be able to give you more solid numbers on this, but close to $100,000 in annual costs that we've been able to reduce by moving over. We also reduced the reliance on standalone printers because we had many of them all over the district. Our new copiers allow teachers very easily to just print right to the copier. There was issues that some felt, well, I have a confidential document, especially in special ed. There is a function within our system that allows teachers to print to what is called Find Me. And the Find Me function allows the teachers to print to that, and then nothing comes out of any of the copiers until they go to the actual copier and put in their code, and then it will print the job for them. So there's no danger of someone seeing a confidential document. And then we were also able to, and we do this in some limited cases, but we have the capacity to allow students to print from their Chromebooks to one of our copiers. So that was one of the benefits that we have. And I kind of put at the bottom here. So a lot of these services were paid for either through Measure T or E-rate. We've also changed over our telephones. And so the district put in a voice over IP system in 2015. We've now updated that system to make sure that we're in compliance with all the federal laws. So there's a federal law that requires us to have what's called an E911, where someone can just pick up and dial 911 and they get law enforcement. There's also a law that requires us to have geolocation services. So if someone calls 911, law enforcement can identify exactly where they're at any one of our campuses. We also have a tool called Cisco Jabber. Excuse me, Cisco Jabber allows our teachers from their home on an application on their laptop to make a call to parents' homes and have it look like it's coming from the district. So they don't have to use their own home phone or their own cell phone to make calls from home to parents. We've merged the licensing contract for all these and saved about $15,000 a year. And then you'll see two of the new initiatives, we've put out all of the clock speakers. So clock speakers are in every classroom. So those clock speakers double as a PA system and an information system. And we manage those all through our network. And then we also have been working with these wireless, you can see over on the far right-hand side of the slide, wireless VoIP phones, and that we've been using with the CDCs. So the CDC teachers can have a phone on them physically while they're working with students, and they don't have to run to a phone if they need to make a phone call. And we're also testing these in our kitchens. So I also mentioned the classroom. And so our classrooms have changed drastically. So the first thing that happened is that we installed 70-inch flat panel displays in all of our classrooms. They're all on carts. They have a motor on them, so they move up and down. So you can get it all the way to the top, and the top of the screen is over 7 feet tall. So you could actually put it in the front of the room, and every student has a clear vision of whatever's on the flat panel display. But you can also move it to another location, move it all the way down, and have it be at the tabletop height, so you could use it with a small group. All of these flat panel displays have air tame units on them, so it allows the teacher and all the students to mirror their screen to the device. So the teacher can present from them, but also the students can as well. We've put in Red Cat access microphone system, so it has a lapel mic for the teacher to be able to speak, but then there's also a handheld mic that the teacher can provide to students, and so that all students can hear everything that's going on in the room. The clock speakers I just mentioned, and they allow us to merge our phone system and our PA system together in a single system. So the teacher equipment, and I mentioned, you saw the first slide, that all of our teachers got brand new MacBook Airs. They have the brand new M1 chip. We were able to save quite a bit on that purchase. We have iPads and document stages for all of our K-1 teachers so that they have the same device that our students have. And then we have been buying, and this is more of a site-based decision, document cameras, so that the document camera can connect directly to the computer, but it can also connect directly to the flat panel display. So it gives the teacher the flexibility with that device to do lots of other things. Most of this was funded either through CARES Act or Measure U. The student equipment, in 2018, we had approximately 5,400 devices. So that was about 72%. Now we're over the total number of students in the district because we have other students that we serve. So during the time we were in distance learning last year, we had a device for every single student in our district. That not just K-8, but that also includes all of our CDC students and also includes our special education preschool at Taft. So all of those students had a device. In grades PK to 1, it's an iPad. In grades 2 to 8, it's a Chromebook. We quickly found, and we were a beneficiary of this, so one of the challenges that was presented to me by Dr. Baker when I first came on board in the district is that there was an application that the district was using that some schools were having trouble using. And we went through and researched, and there had been a lot of work on it. And we found that the device was underpowered, that we really needed 8 gig Chromebooks in order to run this application effectively. And so when we put those 8 gig Chromebooks in place, the problems with that application went away. We, at that point, instituted the 8 gig model as a standard for the district. It made quite a benefit for us during shelter in place. Many districts had issues with either Zoom or Google Meet and the video capacity. We probably had about 2,000 Chromebooks at that point that were 8 gig Chromebooks, and we found our 8 gig Chromebooks had really no problems with Zoom or Google Meet. That then spurred us on to make the purchase we did mid-year last year to buy 8 gig Chromebooks for all of our students. And those were funded through CARES Act, Measure U, and then our upcoming purchase of Chromebooks will be made through the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which is a new federal grant. So our district software applications, because we've now been able to combine everything and we know the hardware in each and every classroom, we've been able to be very intentional with the applications that we provide for all teachers and students in our district. A lot of these applications were chosen in collaboration with the staff development department and looking at the needs of each school and district or within the district. So Book Creator, Screencastify, these are all applications that really allow students to create content so that they can demonstrate content mastery in other ways, not just a written paper or a multiple choice test, but they can actually create projects and more multimedia kinds of presentations. We bought the Typing Club program for the second and third graders to help them learn keyboarding. Newsela, Raz Kids, and Read Write, those are all applications that are designed for different groups of students. So specifically Newsela and Raz Kids will tailor what they provide to students based upon the student's reading level. So Newsela is more for more nonfiction news articles, and Raz Kids is more fiction work. Read Write is a program that we use to support our newcomer students and our English language learners, as with the Brain Pop application as well. Google is kind of the thing that we use to wrap everything. Everybody has a Google account, and that tends to be the one piece that ties everything together. We use that in combination with an application called Clever to allow for single sign-on. So the students sign into their Chromebook the first time at the beginning of the day. They never have to sign into to any other application throughout the day, because it just automatically signs them into everything. So it reduces the friction that the students have to experience throughout the school day. Nearpod is also another one of our applications to provide teachers with more robust presentations. And then the last part of this is some of the grants and the external funding that we've been able to do. So just last week, we found that we were eligible for this emergency connectivity fund. That's going to provide about $750,000 that will be used mostly for hotspots and for Chromebooks. It will pay completely for our hotspots and will pay about 75% of the Chromebooks. So we're working with the schools to pick up the remainder of that funding through Measure U. We received a grant from AT&T that gave us 500 hotspots in service for a year. We did that last spring. In 2019, we were able to work with Bristol Myers Squibb, who has an office in the technology part behind the Long's drugstore and across Woodside Road from Hoover School. And they really wanted to adopt and have a science type facility at Hoover School. So they funded a STEAM lab with all the equipment at Hoover School. And then along with that, there was a STEAM grant that we received from First Book that gave us, you can see these little robots on the far right-hand side, 60 of these Lego kits with the robots, and some additional Chromebooks that we use in that facility for about $150,000. So this is just kind of a little bit of all the different things that we do. And I know there's a lot of other things that we've done that are more on the micro level that allow students and teachers to do a variety of different things, but I wanted to make sure that I got more of the macro, more of the large scale kinds of things out. And I also want to reiterate again, the partnership that we've been able to have with Don Diaz and Will Robertson and the Measure T bond team has really been instrumental to allowing us to make all of these different changes throughout the district. And with that, I'm finished and I'm open to hear any questions that you might have.
All right. Any questions from the board? Questions or comments?
Elisa, may I?
Yes, please, Maria, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I don't have any questions, but I am very pleased to see all of the accomplishments that have been done, especially when it comes to equity. For me, safety and equity have always been really important. And I'm so pleased to see that the telephone, for example, is across the district, that all of those improvements have been made. The connectivity, I was always worried about the servers, and I'm so pleased to see that that issue has been solved and that we have redundancy. and just a lot of the things that have happened. And this was a heavy lift to get our technology up and running to help our students. So I'm sure that there were a lot of extra work that the department staff put in. So I want to make sure that Kyle thanks the rest of the team for us. I know how hard it is to, place an order and then you're unpacking. You have to get it ready, and that is really hard. I know that Dr. Baker himself was unpacking materials at one time, so I know it's not easy. I'm also very happy to see that we have the grants, and I'm especially pleased to see about the STEAM lab at Hoover School. That I think is going to be really wonderful to see, and that we're doing robotics with these grants. I know that a lot of the students are interested in that, so this is really great. The other thing that I really am pleased to see is that we have gotten the technology not just for one site, but it's inclusive, and it includes the special ed, the preschools, everyone. So that to me is really important as well. And I know that there are a lot of other projects that the staff has done to support the district that are not mentioned here today, but I just want them to know that I'm aware of them, and I'm very thankful and happy to see that we are ahead of a lot of districts, as you know, Elisa. So thank you to Kyle and the team, and that's all I have. Thanks.
All right. I think, Maria, you really covered it for all of us. That's great. Thank you for the comments. And yeah, I just want to say, I'm so proud of, if you sort of reflect back on where we were 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and today, it is just extraordinary. We're to a point where every child has a device, right? Every student has a device, and we know how important that is. Maria, you mentioned equity, like it really is important, right? And we used to have students who had multiple devices at home, and other students who would have to go to the library or try to type out an essay on their phone or whatever. So it is so wonderful just to see that, every student is getting their needs met with technology. My one comment, just because I'm always concerned about cybersecurity and just viruses and ransomware and, making sure that we're protective of all the important information that we have. Much of it is private, of course, and then, of course, just the backup. So you did mention some different things. I just want to ask, is there anything more you think we need to be doing in that area? Any more support you need from the board to ensure that we are safe?
So there is one other project that we're working on right now. So we have a system, I mentioned it, it's called an HP Store Once, that basically stores snapshots of all of our servers, and it does that a couple of different times during the day. The last piece that we're looking at to really kind of give us that uber level of security is that we would want to now take a copy of all those snapshots and place them into the cloud, either something like Amazon Web Services or something like Azure. I do have a quote from Amazon Web Services. In fact, I just got the final quote today. The price is fairly nominal, so I'll be discussing this with Priscilla and Dr. Baker to see if we can go forward.
Dr. Baker, did you want to say something? I see you take your microphone.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Kyle, I want to thank you for everything you've done over the last few years to bring us to where we are now, and for especially for helping me with the piece of connectivity with the North Fair Oaks area. I want to thank Warren Slocum for also assisting us, because we weren't getting anywhere, but also you pushed that along, and you also attended a lot of the meetings that I couldn't go to. And I really appreciate your input and your leadership in that direction. So thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Can I say something, Elisa?
Oh, please. Yeah, go ahead, Cecilia.
Also, I do want to say thank you to you and the entire IT team. Obviously, they worked very hard last year. One of the things that I really liked that you mentioned was the phone feature, how the teachers can actually make the call without having to use their personal home. I'm sorry, their cell phone or their homeland, if they still have one. And it shows the school's number. And then one of the things I just wanted to, if you could probably elaborate a little more, what is the read and write that you said that English learners use?
So Read and Write is a Google Chrome extension that provides an additional toolbar in their Chrome browser. So if they go to a particular website, they can highlight the text and press a button and it will read that text to them. It also has a feature that it has a dictionary, so they can highlight a word and press on, there's actually a book icon and it will define the word for them. And it even has what's called a picture dictionary, so that you can highlight a word and click on the picture and it will show you a picture of whatever that word is. So it provides multiple levels of support for those different students who need those levels of support.
That's great. And then is there anything that goes home for their parents to know that this is an additional resource that they're getting? And perhaps if they have any questions, the parents can read through a manual, or is this just strictly the teacher giving instructions to the students?
So it does start with the teacher giving instructions, but we are working with Michelle Ramon in her group to get more information out to parents, because we know that that's critical information to get out. We're also working through some of the translation pieces. So one of the things that we are able to do now with all of our devices and even our Chromebooks is that we have Google Translate on all of our Chromebooks, so that teachers can work with students and put those Chromebooks. I didn't get too far in depth in our Chromebooks, but our Chromebooks are 360 flip. They can be put up on a table in a tent design. They have the ability that you can write on them with any type of stylus. You can write on PDFs and do all that kind of stuff with them. But you can put in Google Translate, and there's what's called conversation mode, where you can set up 2 languages. Person who speaks the one language presses the button, they speak into it, they press the button again, it stops, it then translates that and gives you the audio of that translation in the other language, and then the other person can press their button and speak, and that will do the reverse. So we have those kind of tools available for all of our students at all of our sites.
Thank you.
All right, so I think a big thank you, Kyle, and a big thank you to your team, if you could pass that on to them. Thank you.
I definitely will. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share all this with you. And if there's any questions I can answer for any of you at any time, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Sounds good. All right, great. So we are on to the bond program consent items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So that's Maria and then Janet with a second. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Silva,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, thank you very much, Don and Will. And we will be seeing you on Monday night, right? For a full
Correct.
bond discussion.
Thank you. See you Monday.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. All right. And there's no bond program action items. So we're on to discussion. We're on to the 9.1, which is the 2020 census and trustee area redistricting process.
Yes, this evening we have Josh Chisholm with us, who is going to give us an overview of that process that took place in 2020, the new census, and also to talk a bit about the redistricting process and what that'll look like for us in the next few months. And we also have William Tunick, who is our attorney from DWK, to answer any questions that you may have. And I believe, Elisa, you had sent a question earlier, and he can elaborate on that so that all the board will be cognizant of what you asked and the response. All right.
Great.
Josh, it's good to meet you for the first time. And I think you have shared privileges that you can begin your presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Baker. Let's see if I can get this going here. All right. So good evening, board. Thank you for having us. My name is Josh Chisholm with Cooperative Strategies, and we are the demographer that has been contracted to help evaluate your current trustee areas and against the 2020 census data. So I will jump right in and see if I can get my laser pointer going here. All right, so just to set the stage, every 10 years when the census data comes out, school districts are required to review that population data against the current trustee areas and to determine if those are still within compliance. And really, compliance comes down to variance. So we look for a balanced population amongst all trustee areas. And as you guys are sure aware, over 10-year time period, especially over the last 10 years, the population change across the different trustee areas. You have growth in areas and you have decline in some areas as folks move around within your district. And so if you are out of compliance, then we have to make the necessary adjustments to make sure that we get back into compliance. And I'm sure you're all asking yourselves, well, what does that mean? And I will get to that here in a few slides. All right, so unfortunately, the 2020 census data has been delayed. And so that has compressed all of our schedules. And so it is a race against the clock this year for all districts across the state to check their compliance. And if they're out of compliance, then get back into compliance. So that was released about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now. And we have been working hard to evaluate your current areas. We have a target date of January 19th. For approval of the adjusted areas. We have another little over a month after that to get that really finalized, but we try not to push it up to the end of February. We try to get it done in middle of January here to make sure that we give enough time for us to get that information to the county and the registrar of voters so they're getting the correct people, the correct ballots with the right trustees on those ballots for the 2022 election. All right, so what this process is and what it's not. Let's just start with what it's not. This is not changing any school's attendance area boundaries. So it has nothing to do with attendance boundaries. This has everything to do with your trustees and your board of education directors. We do try to, attendance areas are one thing that we consider when we are creating trustee areas, but that's not what we're doing here. You guys have already gone through the process to become to do elections by trustee area. So we won't be changing any of your boundaries. But what it is, it's basically, like I said, we're ensuring a population balance across all trustee areas. And it's really for Board of Education elections in this here situation. Okay, so if you're not familiar with your district, here is the map. You can see the different colors here are your 5 trustee areas. And the dark black line is the exterior boundary. So this is a lot of information and I'll break it down to give you the answer. The short and sweet answer is that you're out of compliance. According to the law, the total variance here, and I'll go into this more detail, can be no more than 10%. And currently we're at 26.3%. So how do we come up with this number? The total population in your district, according to the 2020 census data, is just over 100,000 people. This is actually a really easy number for us tonight because we take that number and divide it by 5 because you have 5 trustee areas. The process is set up where each area, you want to have an ideal trustee population size within each trustee area. That way, each person's vote, there's the Federal Vote Act, which describes this one person, one vote kind of mentality, right? So I like to use the example, if you had one trustee area that had 50,000 people and another trustee area that had 5,000 people, you could argue that the people in the 5,000 area, their vote is stronger than if it's so diluted in a 50,000 person trustee area population. So the attempt is to get all trustee areas to an equal population. So each person within your district has a equal vote. And so as you can see, in trustee area 1, the total population is almost 20,000. This is really close to the 20,264 that we shoot for. The variance from the trustee area 1 to the ideal trustee area size is just a little bit low, at 1.7% below the target population that we're shooting for. As we go across, and I'll talk about these black columns here in a minute, but as we go across, you'll see that trustee area 2 is pretty darn close. Trustee area 3, not real far off, but then when we get to area 4 and 5, that's where we start to see the real change. So, you know, we're 23,687 in area 4, so that's, you know, roughly 3,400 people too high, and in trustee area 5, we're roughly 2,000 people too low. So how do we get that back into compliance? Ideally, trustee area 4 and 5 share a boundary, and we can look at shifting that boundary up or down to capture some of these folks in trustee area 5. But I'm sure if you were around when you went to by trustee area elections, it's not quite that simple. Okay, so the next slide, we're going to talk about some of the considerations that we need to take into account when we talk about shifting the boundaries to get your populations back into a total variance that's no more than 10%. And then once that happens, it'll be 10 years before you need to do it again. So a little bit about these black columns. This acronym here, CVAP, stands for Citizen Voting Age Population. We use this information to get a snapshot of what the actual voting age population is, because those are the ones who are actually voting on, you know, when the election comes out. So these numbers are not going to be exactly. And in addition, these citizen voting age population numbers are an estimate, and they're from 2015 to 2019. So it's kind of an average, right? So, so you can see that these numbers are certainly much lower than the total population. But what we're looking for is to see if we have a protected class in these categories here that may have more or less voters in that area, and if these voters are in a specific area of your district, and we draw boundaries that divide it into 3, it could be stated that we are diluting that protected class, and they don't have the ability to vote for the trustee that they would like. So we use this citizen voting age population to look at it from another angle to make sure that we're not, say, diluting a protected class. So I'm going to bounce back to the map real quick and just show you trustee area 4 and trustee area 5. Here is the blue is trustee area 4, and the purple is trustee area 5. I don't have a zoomed in view in this slide deck, but I believe that's Bay Road that runs along this direction here, and it may bounce up to Page Street if you go up a little further. So it could be, so the blue area is actually low. It doesn't have enough people in it to balance the trustee areas, and the purple area is where the majority of the population is. That's the most dense area in your district, and that has too many people to balance out. So in theory, it could be that this boundary line shifts further into the trustee area to get back to a balanced population, where some of these in trustee area 4 get pushed into trustee area 5. All right, so what other things do we need to consider when we talk about shifting the boundaries? So that's here. So there are some things that we're required to do, and then there are some things that we want to put our best foot forward to do. So the first two are required. Each area shall contain nearly equal as practicable number of inhabitants. That's that balanced population across all 5 trustee areas. Okay, we have to do that, and the maximum number is 10% here, total variance. The second one is we need to draw to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. This comes down to this one person, one vote mentality with, and it's similar to the total population requirement of, as practical as we can get it, we want to try and have a balanced population. What does compact and contiguous mean? It means we don't want these really funky drawn lines where we have, very odd shapes where we're going from one bottom right corner to the top left corner of the district just to try and make it work. We want to have compact trustee areas as much as we can and contiguous. We don't want trustee area 4 to be separated by trustee area 3. Okay, so we want them to be contiguous. We want to respect communities of interest. So communities, of interest could be religious communities. It could be other types of communities that your community is familiar with, and we're not. So we can't tell from the census data if you have a community that would be upset if we drew a line right down the center of them. Okay, so whenever we consider adjusting these boundaries, that's something that we need to keep in mind as we work to rebalance your population. This one here, for all human-made natural geographic features. Oftentimes this can be interstates, freeways, highways, major roads, can also be rivers, mountain ranges, things like that. So natural geographic features are something that we can use, and oftentimes those naturally separate communities as it is. And so as long as we're not impairing protected classes from having an equal vote, then those are good things to use. Again, we don't want to discriminate or favor political parties. And then if there are other local considerations, which oftentimes there are, we want to take those into consideration as well as we look at these new boundaries. So what does this process look like? So here we are tonight talking about the evaluation and that we're not in compliance. And so we do need to receive some input on potential adjustments. And then over the next couple months, we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll actually create 3 new maps that are in compliance and present those in November. And if none of those 3 scenarios work, when we meet in November, we will go back to the drawing board, tweak those revised maps again, come back in December and discuss. Normally, we can get to consensus at that point and find an approved map. If we can't, we have this buffer built in where we can go back and adjust a little bit more, the favorite of the community, the favorite of the board, to where we get a consensus on a final map and present that at January for approval. So that's the process from A to Z. And at this point, I'll open it up to questions and go back to the map for folks to take a look at.
All right, does the board have any questions? Yeah, so all of us have been through this process. Actually, I don't know, Cecilia and Mike, I don't think you were on the board when we went through the process, but you probably were paying attention to it.
Saw it happen, right? Yeah.
Right, you saw it happen. I think your process sounds really good. I mean, the one comment I had, and this is something that we did with the last one, because we found it easier for somebody living in the community to help with the tweaking of the maps to make sure that streets and communities kind of made sense to stay together. One option might be to add into the timeline to have a committee that would be 2 of the board members to kind of help go through street by street as you're making those changes, just to make sure they make sense. We did find that sort of extended our process a little bit because before we had the committee, right? Because the consultant brought back the maps and then they didn't quite make sense because we had like dead end streets. Anyway, I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but I was thinking that it might be wise to have, I mean, particularly Cecilia and Mike, who would know those communities because that's where they live, to maybe just double check the options that you're presenting to the board before they get presented to the board, be able to tweak those. I would say the board and the community, right? I don't know what the other board members think about that. And of course, I'm potentially volunteering Cecilia and Mike for a little extra. It doesn't have to be them. I think last time we had Hillary and Janet because they knew the community really well and they helped us sort of make those little tweaks that made a big difference. Because I think, Josh, with what you said, you're mostly going to be looking at areas 4 and 5 to make those changes.
Yeah, that's right. You can see that if we had all ones and, even 4.8, if we had another 4.8, we would still be in compliance. But these are too far out. So, we would love to get all of these below 5%. That way we don't have any that are, skewed too far out from the target. But 4 and 5 are really the ones that jump out, at us of, okay, we need to make some changes here. And it's, to some extent, it's convenient. We've run into situations where trustee 5 and trustee 1 are the ones that are out of, that are the furthest away, but they're separated from each other. They have no shared boundary. So you have to kind of shift all of them to get, your trustee areas back into balance. But for here, this is really the line that I see when I look at this. I mean, you have a major, landmark here that separates, this one here that separates. You could cross over and start coming in on this side. But when I looked at the maps, I felt like this may be the easiest, less impactful change to your current trustee areas. And again, we do try to respect the will of the voters. And so there was a process in place to vote with the community that this is what we want, and so we're not looking at redoing everything that's already been agreed on. At this point, we're trying to just make minor adjustments to get back into compliance.
Yeah, because we did a very extensive process for more than a year just a few years ago. So I'm happy to hear that you're talking about, not trying to throw it all on the wall and start over, because I don't think our community would like that as well. So, yeah. So I don't know, other board members, if you have any other questions or comments.
I don't have any questions. I was just going to say, I don't know if it's necessary to have a subcommittee for this, if it's just going to be the area 4 and 5. If they're going to bring back 3 map options to begin with, I think that would be where we can make those comments about whether or not it's dividing a community, because I think we received maps that we were able to drill down into and see specifically the streets where it was. And if that's what we're going to receive ahead of time, we'll have that opportunity for all of us to provide that feedback at the November meeting.
Yeah, can you put the timeline back up, please? Just so we can make sure that there's time if we have major changes to those 3 maps.
Yeah, November 17th is when we would bring the 3 new scenarios, and we do, we certainly want to receive input on this from your community, from your board, but this is the way that we structure this process is such that when we come back in November and have 3 new maps that are in compliance, we will, we'll show how those maps are different from your existing map. We'll zoom in on the existing boundary and on the new boundary. And that's where we find where the discussion really starts. And we say, oh, no, I don't, you can't do that. That's not going to work, or move this one up. And that's where this process really seems to take effect, is when we present the first scenarios. And most of the time, we don't reach consensus on any of the first 3. We have to revise to come to consensus at least once, if not twice.
And just one point of clarification too, Elisa, I think what you're recalling is when we were doing the redrawing the neighborhood boundaries. Hillary and I worked on that as a subcommittee. I don't recall doing that for the.
Oh,
area.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Janet. That's a good point. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay as long as we have enough time. I will say when you start to talk about Bay Road and you're looking over in that North Fair Oaks area, just make sure you get some input from somebody who knows that area, because they really do consider themselves a vibrant community of, a collective. And I don't know that they're going to want to be split up. So you may need to be looking at El Camino or something like that. I don't know, but Cecilia would, she lives in that community and would know it better. But it does make me a little nervous if you're going to start carving Bay Road and giving one to one trustee area and one to another, because I think they consider themselves part of North Fair Oaks. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cecilia.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to comment was, I guess I would want to say that regardless of where the line is going to be drawn, at the end of the day, we as board members are serving the entire school district, right? So I guess this would just be more of when people are campaigning, it would be a matter of knowing what houses you're going to reach. But other than that, I would just say that, I would say that we would trust what the demographer wants to come up with, and of course, make a decision as a board. But again, because we do serve the entire River City school district, I guess it would be, I don't want to say it doesn't make a difference, but I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, good. That makes me feel better about my comment. So I will retract that.
I might suggest perhaps reaching out to the North Fair Oaks committee. I can't remember what the full name of it is, and asking them to maybe have somebody look through the maps too before the November meeting, and maybe have a public comment for us too.
Yeah, I would agree. If you recall, the issue was the North Fair Oaks community didn't want to be separated, and they consider themselves a community as a whole. And there was the issue of where Garfield was going to go. So that's more of it. There is the North Fair Oaks Council that they could get some input from.
That's the one I was referring to. Thank you.
Yes, I think that, yeah, in addition to our schools, communities, it would be good to make sure we reach out to, some of the key community groups like the North Fair Oaks Council. But I think that's sort of on us, right, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, I'm not familiar with the North Fair Oaks community, but I'd be happy to, provide the scenarios that you're looking for ahead of time. That way you could present those and say, oh, no, if they say, oh, we went through this before, this is not going to work, you need to shift these over. And then we can go back and adjust the boundaries to make sure that we respect, what they're asking for. And look at a different, maybe it is the western boundary that we shift to the east. There are some options that we have to ensure that we balance these out. It doesn't have to be, I guess, even as far as that goes, trustee area 1 is the yellow, and that goes into trustee area 4. You can see that trustee area 1 is actually still low too. So that could help carve down some of the population out of trustee area 4. If it's just, if this boundary is just a very hard line that we don't want to shift, then we could look at kind of taking away, some this direction, maybe pushing out this direction, and try and balance out on these two boundary lines to reach compliance there if it's just too tough to shift this boundary here. So we have some options.
Okay, so everyone's okay with the timeline and the proposal of, looks like on November, 17th at our board meeting is when we'll see the various maps. that we can talk. Actually, we'll see them on Friday, I suppose, when the board agenda goes out. And that way the community has an opportunity to look at them as well. Oh no, draft maps posted November 9th, sorry. Right. Okay.
Elisa, did you want to make the rest of the board aware of your question? And then William's here to.
Oh, sure. So one of the, yeah, thank you, Dr. Baker. So one of, I got a comment from a community member that was saying that we needed to make sure we had our maps approved by the San Mateo County Committee on School District Organization. But I believe William Tunick was saying that for this process, we don't need to. So maybe I'll just let you speak to that just so we're all clear. And welcome, William. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Josh did a great job, so I didn't have much to add. But yeah, as far as on the process piece, this is a little bit different than what the board went through when you made the transition. If you remember, there were two kind of steps after the board adopted. There was approval from the county committee on school district organization, and there was also a waiver that of the election requirement that had to be approved by the State Board of Education. The redistricting process is something that is separate and does not require approval from either of those bodies. So unlike that process, when the board makes its final decision, potentially on January 19th, that will essentially be the end of the process. So a little bit different there. If I could add, there were just two other things I wanted to quickly add that I thought, just recalling from last time for the board. One thing I wanted to mention is you're in good company. I know a lot of districts that drew maps in compliance in 17, 18 that are now looking at them and they're finding that they're not anywhere close. So this is not a, I think probably 90% of entities are having to be districts. So you're in good company there. The only other thing I was going to mention actually was one board member kind of jogged my memory. I recall us spending and the board spending a lot of time deciding how to draw areas relative to attendance boundaries. And I believe the goal was to try to get as many attendance boundaries in each trustee area as possible. That seems to be my recollection. So, that obviously nothing you have to decide tonight, but that may be something just to think about and maybe discuss when we come back in November is how does that affect the revision. So with that though, I think Josh covered everything. It sounds like you're off to a good start, but if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
The only other question that I have is, I'm assuming that given that we're tweaking things, given that our numbers are closer, as you just said, than some other places, I don't think there'll be a lot of controversy, but I'm just curious, let's say the board approved the map, the new district boundaries on January 19th. What is the recourse if somebody's really unhappy with what we do? I mean, before you had to go through these extra steps, so there was opportunities, beyond the board approval to do something, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, for one thing, I think, your board before, and I'm sure you'll do it again, and the district did a good job of reaching out to the community and really trying to understand what the concerns were and addressing them. So I don't foresee that being an issue. The other thing I'd point out is that the statutory deadline to complete the process is actually, February 28th, March 1st, depending on how you read the statute. So there's a little bit of time in February if there really was some issue that somehow got missed over those other meetings that the board wanted to address. But again, I think you've got a month between each of these meetings, the reach out to the community groups, the publicity, a lot of the things that you did last time. I think you'll be able to get that public input if there is any, and hopefully come up with some maps that work for everyone.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we have a plan of action. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, William. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Baker, for all your work
Thanks.
on it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just all right, so that was just discussion. So now we were on to 9.2 regarding COVID vaccinations.
All right, perfect. So this will be a presentation, and I think, Kyle, you have it if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, he does. Here we go. Perfect. Thanks so much, Kyle. Really appreciate this. So we are going to give you, I should say, I'm going to give you some more information regarding vaccinations regarding to our little guys. And so, Kyle, the next slide, please. And so for the COVID-19 vaccination for children and youth, so the FDA is about to discuss Pfizer's request for the emergency use authorization for children 5 years old to 11-year-olds on October 26th, which is right next week. And then the emergency use authorization for the 5 to 11-year-olds is expected to be approved sometime early in November. And so that's what San Mateo County Health Department is working with these dates, along with the County Office of Education. We also received information today, which I'm sure you all heard on social media, on news reports, that the White House is going to secure enough vaccines for 28 million children. And a national public education campaign is planned. And there is one plan for San Mateo County, which I'm going to go into in a little bit. And then schools and community-based sites are to act as clinics. And so we are very fortunate that we have been selected by the San Mateo County Health Department, along with the County Office of Education, to be one of 4 districts in San Mateo County that will move forward in having a clinic at one or a couple of their sites. Next slide, please, Kyle. So how this all came about was, as you know, the superintendents meet on a regular basis with Nancy McGee, who is the superintendent for the County Office of Education. And she told us at one of our meetings a few weeks ago that she was going to send out some information, a survey, and those of us that got it back right away would have a better chance of becoming one of those districts. And so Redwood City is one of the districts, elementary districts, along with Jefferson Elementary, Pacifica, and San Mateo Foster City, to have clinics that are going to be hosting on their sites. And our date is Thursday, November 18th for the first shot, and then Thursday, December 9th for the second shot. And the reason why I wanted a Thursday, we have our minimum days on Thursday, and they're going to do this after school. So I figure that we could start earlier than we would normally start if it were a normal school day and not a minimum day. And they go until 8 o'clock in the evening. So I will learn more about this on Friday when the superintendents again meet. And the 4 of us who have been selected to go in this manner will be discussing further information. I am also still working with Safeway and their pharmacies to provide clinics also in the district. We keep meeting and talking about this, but they haven't given me any specific dates as of yet. Next slide. So here is the campaign that San Mateo County, along with the County Health Department, is spearheading on October 27th, which is next week from 6:30 to 7:45. I know some principals have already placed this in their newsletters. Jorge has also put it on social media. Jorge will be pushing it out again on Friday, and we will be meeting with the principals on Thursday. And one of my announcements is to push it out again this week. This is very informative. We have 2 doctors that are going to be working with Nancy McGee on this evening and talking about the vaccine for our children from 5 to 11 years old and how important it is to get this vaccine. I'm also working very closely with Michelle Ramon. This is going to be simultaneously done in Spanish, but I also want to have one evening where we have a physician come and speak directly to our Hispanic Latino families who really, I want them to have a better understanding of the vaccine and why it's really important to get it at this time and to have it presented by a physician who is bilingual. And so Dr. Juanita Valdez Camacho, she's the pediatric allergy and immunology specialist at Stanford. We're trying to get her on another night next week to give information to our Hispanic Latino families totally in Spanish. So I'm working very closely with Michelle Ramon and Jorge to have that take place. So this is the campaign, as I said previously, for San Mateo County that our county health department, along with our county superintendent, is putting into place. We are again going to make sure that our families are aware of it, not only through the principals' newsletters, but also continuing with our own communique that goes home on Friday to parents. And then also Jorge puts it out on different social media platforms. Next slide, please, Kyle. So you see here on, well, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about, this is about the testing, and just wanted you to be aware that we are continuing to test for our students and our staff. And the testing schedules are taking place at each school twice a week. And it's not only for our students, but it's also for our CSD staff and teachers. District-wide, also, there is testings on Thursdays at Hoover and Kennedy if you cannot participate, whether you're a staff member or a child that wants to be tested, that their parents want them tested, and you can't get it done during that time at your school site, you can go to Hoover and Kennedy on Thursdays. So we still have this taking place. As we said previously, we do it on a weekly basis. We have plenty of people taking advantage of it. It has also definitely helped with the pausing of positive cases at our school sites. Next slide. I want to compliment all our teachers, our staff, our parents, everyone who works in the Redwood City School District for following the district protocols put in place by San Mateo County Health Department along with the County Office of Ed. As you can see, the positive COVID cases we have had in this district have been small. I want to, like I say, I'm very proud of us continuing with the protocols and the mitigation efforts at all of our school sites. And very pleased with the weekly testing that we are having. This is the dashboard, as you'll see from last week, and it gets updated every Thursday. Next slide, Kyle. So this was a small presentation. It wasn't a large presentation, but it's just giving you information in regarding the next effort to vaccinate our students who are ages from 5 to 11, which will be happening soon and which I'm very pleased to hear about and to share with you. Questions or comments?
I'll go. I don't have any questions. I just, first of all, I want to say that seeing that dashboard is fantastic. I actually hadn't checked it in a couple weeks. So it's really awesome to see how few cases we're seeing, and just thank the community and our families and our staff and everybody for following all the protocols, because we know that those protocols work and that's what keeps us safe. So thank you everyone for all your work on that. And Dr. Baker, I just want to thank you for your work in securing vaccine clinics too for our kids. I think we know that it's important to get ahead of the game and get out there before the other school districts. So I appreciate you working to secure those vaccines for our kiddos, and getting a clinic from the county too at one of our schools too. So I just want to thank you for your work on that. I know you work hard on making sure that we have what we need ahead of time. So That's all.
Right, and there are going to be different locations throughout the community also, not only, you know, the school sites, but also other locations. And then there was, and I know you all know this because you are on a call every other week with, I believe, Nancy McGee and some other health officials, that many of the pediatricians are asking to see the students, see the children, because they may have not seen them for the last 16 to 18 months. And this would also give them an opportunity to have, you know, a thorough checkup while they're there in their office getting the vaccine too. So there are a lot of efforts in place to make this happen. And as you did say, Janet, very pleased with, you know, the county, because our vaccination rates are really high. We should be very proud of that in general.
Yeah, I like outreach, education, and access to the vaccine. Those are like the biggest things that we can possibly be doing right now. And so I think, yeah, getting these clinics in there are great. After school, it might be interesting also to think about how, if there's even more we can do for access for, you know, kids in the after school program or something. But I don't know, there might be options there. The other one was and bringing the Safeway clinics in, I think is exciting. For the clinics though, the two that you mentioned, is that only for our CSD students, and like, can siblings come? Can parents get vaccinated if they want? It's open to any.
No, this is only for children. It's going to be for
only
those
for
children.
Oh, it's only 5 to 11. Okay,
5 to 11.
got it. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. No, I think it's great. The more that we can offer, the more we talk about it, the more we encourage every student to get vaccinated, and the more options that we give them. I think that's the more we remind everyone how it's really, there's a lot of layers. The dashboard shows that we're doing really well. Getting vaccinated is going to really make a big difference too, and keep those numbers low. Thanks.
Yep.
And I just want to say thank you, John, for always thinking about our parents, and especially for getting the clinic for the Spanish-speaking parents, where they can ask questions and be able to understand better the pros and cons, so that they feel better about making the decision for their children. I know that that's really important, especially given the demographics of our district. So thank you for all your hard work.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just with what Maria just said, I was gonna, my comment would be, I know Jorge does an awesome job with communication, but my comment would just be, if we know with plenty of time when the doctor is going to be speaking to the Spanish-speaking parents, it would be great to give them a few days, not just a couple of days, because it makes a difference.
Yep.
That would just be my suggestion. And then I, like everyone said, thank you, and everyone, the nurses, every staff that works with, whether it's COVID cases, the dashboard, again, is very appreciated that they are doing that extra, work after the pandemic hit. Obviously, so it's very much appreciated.
Great. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I feel it. We're starting to see it coming back to a bit more normal for us. This will do it. I can hardly wait.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, just look at our numbers right now, and then after we have all these other kids vaccinated, it is really heartwarming. And you still hear these stories of some other districts, even within California, that are having to shut down whole classrooms and schools, right, because of high COVID cases. So we're really fortunate that everybody is cooperating with our health protocols. So, and thank you, Dr. Baker, for your leadership in all of this.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I think we're done with that one. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items? And as a reminder, we also moved 11.5 to 11.9 to consent.
So moved.
Second.
Right, Janet, and then a second from Maria. Roll call, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Solcom,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, we're on to action items. 11.1, which is the recommendation for Resolution 12, authorizing electronic meetings of the Board of Trustees during a state of emergency.
Yes, this needs to take place every 30 days, and the board must approve it for us to continue to have our meetings virtually. And at this point in time, as you all know, we're awaiting new mics for our boardroom. That's one of the issues we have that is concerning, because we will still have to wear masks when we're together. That has not been lifted for San Mateo County, especially when you're going into any public facility like our boardroom is considered. So we would still have to wear our mask, and we'd have to talk into the mics that do not work well. And Kyle has been working diligently to get us our mics that he ordered, I want to say back in July, and hopefully they will be here mid-December. We're keeping our fingers crossed that they'll be here. So I'm asking you to please approve this resolution.
Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second by motion by Maria, second by Cecilia. Roll call, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Solcom,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, 11.2, which is adoption of Resolution 13, supporting Governor Gavin Newsom's executive order requiring COVID-19 vaccination for students, and approval of the letter.
Yes, there's a resolution here and a letter which we talked about at our last board meeting. This resolution has been changed a bit. Also, I want to point out that it is our hope and all the superintendents in San Mateo County's desire that when the vaccine is fully FDA approved and no longer under the emergency use authorization, that it be mandated as other immunizations are when students begin schools in a public setting. And if that were to take place, it is our hope that it will take place on July 1st of 2022. And that is also in the resolution. I think the first paragraph of the letter really indicates, that it's very important that children receive their immunizations, and that COVID should be one of them that is mandated.
And Dr. Baker, the letter already went out, right?
No, the letter.
No.
No.
Oh.
I was waiting for the resolution to be.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, because it had a date of October 15th. I wasn't clear if it had already gone out. Okay. All right. So you're waiting for this. Okay. Any questions or comments? I know we've discussed some of this before. Mike, looks like you have a comment, or
I do. I mean, how is this different than what's already been, what Governor Newsom's already done? That was the part I didn't. I thought that's why this got pulled last time, was that he'd already put out that's why I was asking, is this coming to us again as a letter that's the same text as before?
The reason why it's coming for you before, and why I really encourage to send it again, is because there has been some conversations with the legislature and with other parent groups to not go in this direction. And so we, as superintendents of the County of San Mateo, really feel that we want him to persevere and move forward with this. And hopefully he moves forward with it July 1st of 2022.
so there's some concern that there might be some backsliding on his announcement. Okay, yeah, so it would be good to support that then. Yeah, because that was sort of the question I had as well. And I know part of it is like we might want to tweak the letter a little bit, but I think this is the letter that everybody's signing from our county, right? So better not to tweak it, just leave it.
Yeah.
Our folks, I mean, we're approving the resolution and then also the letter that Dr. Baker would be signing on our behalf. Are you, any other questions or comments, or do I have a motion to approve?
Can I just get a clarifying question?
Mhm.
Is this strictly for students, or are we talking students and staff?
The immunizations are strictly for students. It's that immunization record that we ask for when students are coming to school for the very first time. And it's also the immunization record we ask for also if you're new to Redwood City School District. For example, all the TKs, the kinders, submit. And then again, we ask, I believe it's 7th grade for the Tdap, if I'm not mistaken, for that immunization. So it's for students, Cecilia. Right now for our staff, it is that they, at this point in time, are taking the test, the COVID test every week if they have not received their vaccination.
Okay, thanks. And then again, on another clarifying question, if I'm not mistaken, I read that Gavin Newsom was actually talking about maybe mandating it for also staff members. Is that something that's going to be taken care of by every school district? Or obviously if he's the governor and he's saying it's going to be a mandate, it's something that everyone at one point eventually is going to be talking about?
Certainly, and there are questions regarding that at this point in time, and the questions are, it's difficult to find staff members, teachers to fill some of the positions. If you're going to take, and we have a very few staff members that are not vaccinated, but if you're a larger district and you have quite a few and you release them, you go through the disciplinary process and release them, and then there aren't people to take their place, it creates another issue for the district. So there is some talk about that at this point in time. And as it's stated right now, our staff and our teachers who are not vaccinated do test every week.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Cecilia, I think what I've read or heard is that if the vaccine was required for students, that we could expect that we may see something down the line then for staff requirement as well, similar to other vaccines that are required for everybody. But yeah, I haven't heard anything specific. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the letter and resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Janet made the motion. Cecilia seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Solcom,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. Okay, we're on to 11. Thank you for your work on that too, Dr. Baker. Appreciate it. So we're on to 11.3, which is the adoption of Resolution 14, San Mateo County Office of Education authorized signatures.
Good evening. This resolution is to add our newly hired accounting manager, Heather Park, as an authorized signer for the district for payroll and vendor payments purposes.
All right, any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Maria, and then Mike as a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Diaz-Solcom,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, 11.4, the approval of the ESSER 3 expenditure plan. Good job, Liz.
Thanks. One can't have too many plans, right?
Exactly.
Right. And we just heard about another one today that's going to
Hey.
be coming up, right, for our TK plans for the future, but we'll worry about that in January. So I have a couple of slides to show. Can I Can I do that? You don't mind? All right. Okay, so I actually attended a meeting last week from the San Mateo County office, and they're calling this a plandemic with the number of plans that we're having to write. So this is the ESSER 3 expenditure plan that is giving our accountability for the federal funding that we received. And a few of you were involved in our stakeholder engagement meeting that we had in September. And so I'm just showing a few of those slides so that we can see a little bit of the information in the background that goes into the planning of this particular funding source. And so what we looked at in the stakeholder engagement meeting were just the variety of funding sources that have come through, both from the state and from the federal government. And so this is only one of those, but this is the one that has been determined needs to have an accountability plan with them, the ESSER 3 plans, ESSER standing for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. And that was passed in March 13th, 2020. And there are allowable uses of these funds, and then you saw these were addressed in the plan, but primarily they're to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the pandemic, as well as to really focus on the unique needs of our special populations, of our low-income children, our students with disabilities, our English learners, our minorities, students, homeless, and foster care youth. And so again, many of the activities that were designed and are being implemented this year are to target these groups of students. Moving ahead here, it's also to purchase supplies and sanitize and clean our facilities, to support educational technology, a lot of what Kyle was showing earlier. This evening also is funded by the ESSER 3 funds. A big component of our funding, it has been put towards mental health services and supports, and we'll talk about that in just a second, as well as the summer learning program that we had this past year and have going forward, or already starting to plan for next summer, and then starting to think about some of the after school programs. So the stakeholder group in September was reminded that the ESSER funding aren't the only source of funds for a lot of the activities that address some of the same priorities in the ESSER 3 regulations. And so we took a quick look at the LCAP expenditures and how the supplemental concentration funding is also directed towards many of those same kinds of expenditures. I know this is really hard to see. If anybody wants another copy of the LCAP, I'm happy to supply that to them. And so this is the ESSER 3 expenditure plan, and it's been updated. And thanks again to feedback from people on this committee in terms of how the funds are being spent. We have a total of about $10 million, and up $1,800,000 plus is going to the continuous and safe in-person learning. And those items are detailed in this plan, but the majority of the funding, over $8 million, is going to addressing the lost instructional time. And the guidelines said a minimum of 20% of our funding should be applied towards these kinds of activities, but we have closer to 80% because we felt that this was really the priority for our district. And then there were some remaining funds, and then our input from our stakeholder group was used to, this money was used to address some of their additional recommendations. So this is just pages from the report, the plan as to how these funds are being spent for our safe in-person learning. And then it's also delineated for how the funds are being spent for the lost instructional time and trying to make up for that. And then in terms of the stakeholder engagement, we applied from the remaining funding, we applied additional funding for tutoring. One-on-one tutoring was a priority of our groups, as well as increasing the professional development around inclusive practices and in the universal design for learning. And this is going to be addressed by our MTSS task force that begins next week. And then there's a little bit of overage that's been set aside to cover costs if some of our funds were not adequate to pay for some of our personnel expenses. And then we also have developed our accountability plan to ensure that the components that we have chosen to address student needs actually make that difference. And so we have added some additional ways of measuring success in terms of the numbers of students who are placed in A to G classes in high school. And so that is something that we're working on and monitoring very carefully in support with our Stanford researchers who are working with us. We have our iReady and running records, which are reading exams. And iReady, as you know, measures progress over time in reading and math. We will be collecting reports from those who are involved in tutoring in terms of attendance, as well as some of the formative assessments they will give the students. We will be collecting information again about the after-school tutoring and the electives in terms of their attendance of students, the technology usage. We will also be gathering information about that and seeing how the technology is supporting the rate of our homework completion. We have, as you know, 2 data coordinators who are working now at the district level, and they are working with our sites to set targets for all of these components, as well as collecting and monitoring data, and we'll be giving monthly reports to our sites and to you if you're interested in seeing this level of detail in terms of the data around the progress. And in terms of social emotional health, we are collecting information on attendance and chronic absenteeism, suspension rates. We are going to be administering the Panorama Survey in the beginning of November and again in the end of the school year, and we'll be able to measure growth in perception around school climate. We are developing screeners for mental health, as well as we will be involved in teacher, student, and family feedback and empathy interviews. And so that's that. If there are any questions.
This is the 3rd plan, and as she said, there's another plan coming. So it's just
more than one.
about, I know, it doesn't stop. But we're receiving the dollars, and we want to show that we're held accountable for the money that we've received. And so here are the plans. And I think it was Mike and was it Elisa that was on the committees to begin with. And then that last meeting we had, which was, I think, on a Monday, if I'm not mistaken, a few weeks back, with the stakeholders again to look at the additional dollars. And so I'm just hoping that as we continue down this road and we want to hire additional bodies to help us, especially with the tutoring program, that we're able to do so.
The LCAP set a good foundation for like stakeholder input. So it's nice to see how that all kind of laid in here. And then that one, I mean, this came together really fast, right? I mean, a couple weeks to be able to pull this together, have the stakeholder meeting that we did, was that September, I think. Get that feedback and see it incorporated here was great. 80% of the money being spent for enhancing instructional time is outstanding, and seeing that a quarter of that is about a quarter of that is put towards mental health is, I think it really helps demonstrate where priorities are. So and the detail and the monitoring that you added in, Liz, is great. There's a lot of really interesting ways to look at the success of these programs or how they're doing and sort of evaluate along the way. So I'm excited to see that stuff, see the progress, and see how things get tuned as we learn, what's working and what's not.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Liz, for all your work on this. And I also noticed that in the attendees, we have some of our community members who have participated, some of our community members and our staff have really made the plan of action, I think, even better. So I wanted to thank them as well for all their work. And I agree, Mike, and actually, Liz, you're getting it down to a science, these plans, right? On how to really get productive genuine feedback, right, from the community, and it does help, you know, the direction of what we're doing. So anyway, thank you. All right. Oh, Maria,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
for always being so optimistic when all these changes happen and when their deadlines are coming up, and now you have another one to look forward to. So thank you for doing all that and for gathering people together and getting us where we need to be. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Liz is an expert in facilitating a Zoom meeting and breakout rooms and all of that. It's very impressive. So thank you. All right, we do need a motion to approve this plan.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, Maria, and with a second from Mike, roll call, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Lawson,
Aye.
Trustee Marquez,
Aye.
Vice President Slocum,
Aye.
President McAvoy.
Aye. All right, and now we're on to board. Thank you again. Now we're on to board and superintendent reports. Who would like to go first? Just jump on in.
The Citizen Bond Oversight Committee got to tour, as an agenda meeting, but we got to tour a bunch of the construction sites, which was just outstanding to see up front, you know, in person. We met at Kennedy and then we visited the active sites at Orion, Hoover, Taft, and Garfield. I've been loving the slideshows, but it's just remarkable to be on site and kind of walking in. And at Garfield, even though it's just the skeleton of the building still, we walked into this, what's going to be the library, and you could just feel like this is going to be an outstanding place to learn. So I was really excited about that. We had a bond committee meeting as well. That was prepping up for the special session Monday. And then I attended most of the SMCSBA membership meeting on Monday. But I did have to drop off about 20 minutes early. So maybe Elisa, you'll fill in the last 20 minutes. Thanks.
So
Any
the
other
only thing
reports? Oh, good.
I attended the Connect Charter Schools board meeting on, what was it, the 7th, Thursday the 7th.
Thank you for going to those, Cecilia. I think that's really important for us to be involved, so thank you. All right, Janet or Maria, anything to report?
Okay. So I also attended the bond committee meeting and the CBOC site visits, which were really fantastic. Will took us to 5 different sites. And one comment in addition to what Mike has said, Mike and I were both blown away by how quickly Garfield went up. Because I think what we say, Mike, we broke ground in 2 months ago. Yeah, about 2 months ago. And it's already like this tall skeleton of a structure. And what's kind of neat about it is it really, and we were commenting on this, is really truly a hidden gem, because you see Garfield from the front and you see kind of the historical building, and you can't see the structure behind it. But you walk through the main office and you walk out to this just is going to be beautiful library and STEAM buildings and classrooms. And just super excited for the community and what Measure T has been able to bring. I attended an induction meeting, I think last week. And then I think it was Monday, Dr. Baker and Wendy Kelly and I had the RCTA Climate Committee. And then this morning, Elisa and Dr. Baker and I had the Redwood City Together meeting.
Maria, do you have anything? Okay. All right, yeah, so the Redwood City Together meeting, and I also attended a Safe Routes to Schools committee meeting. So there's just a lot happening there, and those are every month now. And, you know, for the Redwood City Together, I was thinking that we have produced some SMARTY goals So what we could do is forward that on to Maria, Mike, and Cecilia, just so you can see what Redwood City is working on. And there's different theme areas with some specific measurable targets, which I think has been a good process. And really the IE is the inclusion and equity piece, right? So it's the regular SMART plus E. It's kind of cute acronym on that. And then, yeah, the San Mateo County School Boards Association, we hosted a session, Governance in the Time of Chaos. And it was really about how to govern now and how important governance is. And I think we're seeing it within our own county and across the state, that if you don't have good governance teams, which really is the school board and the superintendent along with our district staff, you can really fall apart easily, and I think be more susceptible to the chaos that's going on in the community. So it was really kind of to help strengthen governance and to give us ideas of how to address things. And a lot of the things I think we're already doing, Mike, right, within our own district, which I was happy to hear. So no major revelations there, other than I think we're doing a really good job. I feel good about where we're at. So that's always good to know. Okay, so that's all I had, Dr. Baker.
Well, a lot of them you've mentioned, but I started going out to school sites, and I have been out to 4 of them so far. And it's really great to see the children out at school. They're in person. I know everyone's wearing their masks. You even outside, the kids are wearing their masks. And as you know, in Redwood City, in the Redwood City School District, it's optional. But you walk around and you're outside with the kids during recess, and they have their mask on. The majority of them have their mask on it, except for maybe some of the middle school kids that are playing basketball. They'll take it off while they're playing basketball. Bell rings and they put it right back on and head into the classroom. But it's great to see them all out and back in person. So hopefully within the next few weeks, you can make appointments with the principals to start visiting and see what's really taking off at the school sites. They're all, at least the 4 that I've visited so far, very much in agreement that the best thing that we could have done was hire those clinicians for mental health at each of the school sites, along with the extra support that they're receiving that they have paid through by Measure U, some of their PTA or PTOs, got them some additional time. So it's been really well worth the dollars, really well worth the dollars. And along with the reading specialists for those schools that were able to pick up a reading specialist and really helping meet the needs of our students. I know iReady has just completed, is that correct, Liz? And they're all looking at these iReady scores and talking to the data coordinators, and they go, we knew that, you know, we had a lot of work to do and we have a lot of catching up to do. And so they're all realizing that. And so when you see their SIPSs coming to you within I think it's at the next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, you'll see information about that. But they are working very hard, the staff, the teachers, the extra support that each site has, and just looking at children differently, because it's been for some of these little guys that were not even in school and they're already kindergarten first, they're in the 2nd grade, or they were just in kindergarten for a little while and now they're in the 2nd grade. It's like coming back and being exposed to things of how you're supposed to behave, how do you work in groups with other kids and so forth, how do you make friends with other kids, all this different types of activities that staff and teachers are doing to meet these needs of our students who were away from school for 16 months. So it's great, but it's great. They're happy. You can see them. They're happy. They're out there. I was at Adelante Salvi recently, and after meeting with Warren for a bit, then we went out just to meet with the kids, and the kindergarten kids were out eating lunch, under the umbrellas that are out at Adelante Salvi. And it was great to see them eating lunch, talking, laughing, having fun, what school should be, so it was great. So They know, the principals know that, you can call, make an appointment to come out and see them, and then take you on a little tour of the school. So that's
Good.
my report.
All right, thanks. Okay, so 13 has informational items. The first 3 are about the charter schools. Are there any questions or comments on those? Okay. I think the one thing I know I noticed and Dr. Baker and I talked about is Connect and Rocketship have pretty low numbers right now of enrollment. KIPP is, larger, they're doing okay, but, and all the budgets look okay. So I guess they're surviving even with the small school, but it is smaller.
And one thing I forgot, I did have a meeting with Rocketship, Marie Gill, and I did ask her about that. And they do have many of the students that just moved away. They just moved. And she said what is really eye-opening for her is they have not received the request for records yet. So does that mean that the students are at home, or did they enroll in some different online learning? They don't know. So she says they just did not return and have not asked. There's not been a request for records. And when they call home, and most of the time, it's cell phone, people don't pick up. It just goes to voicemail. So yeah, they are lower in numbers, she said.
Yeah, we're seeing that across the state. Any questions or comments on those 3 items?
I just wanted to say thanks again to the finance department. One of their many responsibilities. So just make sure we got that in there.
Good comment, Mike. Thank you, Priscilla, and your team. Much appreciated. Okay, and then the final informational item was the county Office of Ed, the review of our LCAP and budget. Were there any questions or comments there? Okay. All right, great. It's always good to have a clean bill of health, isn't it, Priscilla? So thank you for keeping us in good shape. As we know in the paper every day, there's school districts that are not in good shape. So we're fortunate to have you helping us stay the course. So thank you.
And that one includes also the LCAP. So thank you to Liz.
Right, of course. Thank you, Liz. All right, so those were just information. All right, correspondence. I know we've gotten a few letters from various parents, I think on North Star Forward, on Mandarin Immersion, siblings, on school-related issues. Trying to read my, and some trash at a construction site. So I don't know if people got anything else this last couple of weeks. But all of those, I believe, are being addressed. Just so.
Right. And we are going to start. We're starting with the Superintendent's Advisory Committee.
Great.
Month, and also with North Star Forward next month. So.
Okay, good. That was one of the questions: is when that committee will start back up.
Right. It starts.
So next month.
Both those committees are starting again back up next month. And I believe the one about the litter at one of our sites, that's been taken care of already.
I figured as much. Yeah, I was glad we heard about it. So I'm sure Dawn was on the phone immediately.
I think Dawn and Will were both on the phone.
Okay, clean up, people.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
And I got a letter from an Orion parent about doing outreach. And then we also received an invitation from Leslie for the SEPTAR meeting.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to try to go to that.
It's their first one of the year, I believe.
Yeah, good point. We also, I think, got some emails about the food service, right? So is that what you're talking about, Maria? Okay, great. Yeah, lots of letters this last couple weeks. Okay. Any other suggested items for future agenda? Okay. And board agenda calendar, any changes, Eliana, we should know about?
No, just a change for the special board meeting from Wednesday to this upcoming Monday.
Yeah, okay, so Monday, 6:30. Yep. And then I think our next meeting after that, is that the November 10th? John?
I believe so. Yes.
And so on November 10th, we will have a closed session starting at 5:30, and that will be on housing.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's another informational item for board members regarding housing. Peter Ingram will be there, our consultant. We'll also have Clarissa. I can't remember Clarissa's last name.
Kennedy or something.
And she will be our attorney from DWK, and Priscilla will also be with us at that meeting.
Okay. All right. And it looks like we will have a November 17th meeting. That was sort of a question, but we're going to need that for the map. So,
right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I think that's it. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Oh,
Mike and then Maria. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. All right, Eliana, is that okay for the adjournment? We're good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We got in just under 9 p.m. So good job, everybody. All right. Thanks to our audience again, and thanks to all the panelists. All right. Good night.
Good night.